with another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Boy, we have a great group tonight. Believe me, they come from college, they come from pros, and they go back a long ways. Please have Coach Eddie Cartier and the University of South Florida Athletics Hall of Fame back on. Glad to have you back, Coach.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Trent, glad to have you back as well.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, he's got some rings. And my longtime teammate, Barry Foote, we worked together for the Fort Lauderdale Yankees, and we've known each other a long time since I was a pup, and he got into managing. Glad to have you on, Barry. We can't hear you, Barry. You're on mute.
Good to be here.
Glad to, and we got Warren Brewster back on. He'll be here every Monday night. So for those that want to see Warren, you can see him here on the network. And
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Eric and Candy as well. Eddie Prather, long time no see. Glad to see you in the chat room. We have a great group tonight and definitely some Philly interest in there as well. So let's get to it. I know Eddie only has a short period of time. So by the way, Eddie, I did look this up, by the way. And there's a source that says that the Tampa Bay Rowdies have been sold with the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know if they're going to actually go ahead and move out of Bayfront Stadium, but I just thought I'd let you know that I dug that up. When we did that show a few weeks ago, I thought about it. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So what are your thoughts about them real quickly being an ISO topic that they're actually packaged in with the Rays?
Well, first of all, my first instinct is to be pissed because they took Al Lang Field and made a beautiful historic baseball field where I played American Legion baseball into a soccer field. And so now if they move to Tampa, that wouldn't be good in my way of thinking.
Okay, and then the second Tampa topic, I want to hit you real quick, then we're going to go with the rest of them. And in fact, everybody can talk about this. How about that? The Tampa Bay Rays did not have a rainout in the 2025 season. What about you, Coach? You surprised that they didn't have one?
It's like why we didn't have a hurricane this year. It's either El Nino or La Nina. I think it rains more when it's El Nino. And I think we got lucky this year. And that's the only thing I could come up with because otherwise you can count, you can count on the afternoon thunderstorms, June, July, and August, and even into September. But this year's been a lot different, and we have been in a La Nina. So might have a lot to do with it. I don't know.
Well, they needed it this year because Tropicana Field wouldn't have been able to handle it. They'll get it back next year. All right, Eric, any thoughts around the horn here, so to speak, no relation to the old show, about the fact that the Rays did not have any rainouts? We'll start off with Eric.
Well, it helped that they had that stretch late in the year where it seemed like they were on the road for a majority of it. I think that was built in there for just in case that were to happen. But quite impressive though, because I know during the summertime Florida gets pretty rainy.
Candy.
We had a drought for part of the year, so we were really lacking the rain for part of the year. So I can understand it, but good kudos, because let's face it, who wants to plan an outing and go to a game and then only for it to be rained out?
Warren.
Well, I coached in the Florida State League and also in the Gulf Coast League. So I've spent a lot of summers in Florida, and it rained constantly. We got rained out all the time. That was part of that was you just figured out how you were going to play around the rain, and it was really difficult. We weren't get a lot of work done early before game time. A lot of times we just showed and go, just put our uniforms on and played if we could.
Yeah, Barry Foote and I were in the Florida State League together. What about you, Barry?
Well, I think that if you'd have bet that they would have gone a season without a rainout, you'd have made a lot of money. So I don't think it's that doesn't happen very often in Florida. That's for sure.
And last but not least on the topic, got Trent.
Yeah, I think, baseball's hurry up and wait, right? Like it always is. And we wait on these weather and we do all these things and you lose early work. To Warren's point, it's a challenge. The other thing is 162 games, and I think it's about 176 days for the season. So you only got 14 days off. So it always made me challenged when you're on the road and you stay till 9:30 till they call the game and they're like, oh, you got a day off because they canceled the game. Well, not really, right? And then you got to make that back up to Warren's point, like, oh, now we got to do a split doubleheader or something. So those 14 days off dwindle to about an average of 1 day off a month.
Okay, well, the next topic we're talking about is Jeff Hoffman. Eric and Trent talked about it, and I think you did as well, right, Candy? So we'll leave it to Warren, Barry, and Coach Cardieri. And Jeff Hoffman says, I cost everybody in here a World Series ring. That's Jeff Hoffman takes the blame after the game 7, yielding a Miguel Rojas home run that tied the game 4-4. So should he actually take accountability and the blame, Barry?
Absolutely not. What happened to the other guys that gave up runs? Why don't they take some accountability? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. I know where Warren's going to stand on this. The bullpen is, look, how many times he saved their butt. I just don't think that's, I'm sure it was an emotional time for him, but once he reflects back on it, it's part of the game. Sometimes you get, you throw 0 innings, and other times you give up runs. Just happened he gave up a home run on a hanging, I can't remember if it was a hanging slider or a hanging splitter, but those things happen.
Yeah.
All right, Warren, we'll turn it over to you, and we'll wait for Coach Cardieri. Are you still with us, Coach?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Somehow we don't see you unless your screen went black.
Well,
But all right, Warren.
Well, it's a team game, and if they had scored 10 or 12 runs, you wouldn't even be talking about it. It would have been an afterthought, But at the time in the moment, when they have a 4-3 lead going into the top of the 9th, if he shuts them down, they win the World Series. So I mean, he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he's used to that, and it's part of his. That's what closers get paid to do: close games out. And he failed. It would just happen to me in Game 7, which magnifies it, that much more. But it's a team game. It took all 25 of those guys to lose that last game, not just him.
Coach.
Ditto, amen to what Barry and Trent have both said. So another thing is everybody remembers how the game ended, but we forget how many men were stranded on base or runners not moved over, balls hit to the big part of the field with a runner on third, a grounder to second would have scored a run, whatever, all those kinds of things. But the base running at the end, that runner on third, not getting a big enough lead, and not running through the plate on the force play, those things are also part of what happened, Okay.
Very good. All right, let's continue on. So let's talk about a Division I program in baseball that actually went out there and cut its baseball program. I hate to see this stuff. I really, really, really do. But Purdue Fort Wayne became a casualty amid budget cuts. So what are your thoughts, Warren, about a team like them cutting this program? That's just too bad that baseball has to be victimized because of it, because we all know baseball, compared to some of the other sports, is a sport where you develop a lot of great prospects.
Right. And, college baseball takes a back seat to college football and basketball. Those are their big money makers. Right. And so, it's something that had to go, apparently, but it's a shame to see that for the kids. Now they've got to scramble and find places to play, and it's a shame that something like that happens. It happened close to home at Sonoma State, a D2 program, right by my hometown. They cut all their sports, everything. They cut everything down, and it's sometimes they just has to be done. They just can't afford to put up with that expenditure anymore.
Yeah, Purdue Fort Wayne, it is too bad. So we'll see where they go. Barry, obviously, you coach in the Florida State League and have been everywhere. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, you hate to see a program get taken out like that, because now it's more and more players are being developed in the college system, and there's less and less minor league teams out there now for development. So I think it's not good for the game to lose any programs right now, the way it's set up.
Trent?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, Wisconsin cut their program in the Big Ten, and I was like shocked, man. Like that was a real opportunity for another school as a Midwest kid, and of course, hockey's another revenue sport there that most schools don't have as a revenue sport. So it made sense that baseball had to go. It was also right in the middle of the Title IX era, the 80s. Title IX was alive and well. They had to balance that out. And so baseball was a goal. They didn't cut softball. So, you got that, but we don't have women's football with 100 athletes. So Title IX equals it all out. And so some of the men's sports have got to give in that, and that's part of the deal. And it's unfortunate to ever see baseball go. I mean, you remember when they cut it from the Olympics, everything else. It's always been America's pastime. I hate to see it go from anywhere, and I hope it's not trending.
Coach Carrieri, obviously you coach at my alma mater, University of South Florida. When you see a program like Purdue, Fort Wayne get cut, what's the first thing that enters your mind?
The NIL. And I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but my picture poofed out. It says my mic's working. I could see you guys now. It won't let me enter the studio. But in any event, one of the coaches at one of the largest schools in Florida told me that they had $50,000 for baseball in NIL, whereas University of Georgia had $2 million. So those schools with several $1 million can buy players. It's free agency. And those smaller schools can't survive budget-wise, especially Title IX. I'm glad all the women's sports are doing as well as they're doing. But it hurts the baseball programs to not be able to compete with those guys that have so much money in the NIL program.
Candy?
Yeah, I can say Title IX benefited some of us women, but I get it. Like there are some sports that bring in the big dollars. The football, basketball is bringing in a lot of money. Baseball just isn't. And growing up, and Trent, I was in Wisconsin. Like I'm a big Brewers fan, so we have professional football or baseball. But yeah, baseball teams per se, UWM didn't have a baseball team at the time. Marquette, like they didn't have fields there for them to have those teams and stuff like that. So I get it. Some schools can afford it, some schools can't. The big money is in the big, the big NIL money is in the big revenue programs. And so it's unfortunate because baseball is America's pastime. But at least there are the minor leagues, so there is a way to get up into the majors.
Eric?
I mean, unfortunately, what it comes down to is, it's becoming more and more expensive every year to run an athletic department with multiple sports. I mean, the revenues are out of control. NIL is ever changing. The college landscape itself is out of control, especially with the transfer portal and kids being able to seemingly come and go as they please. It's hard. I mean, you can almost, if you're a small school and you can almost count on your best player transferring out. It's guaranteed he's going to try and make it at a higher level like Division I because he proved he can play at the college level. But what it comes down to is, these schools, it just comes down to expense. Baseball is not a revenue sport compared to basketball and football and in order to keep but they can't just cut not revenue women's sports just because of Title IX. So baseball ultimately takes it in the teeth. That's just the way it is.
All right, well, Coach, we have another topic that we're moving through the show real well. Albert Pujols had a 9.5-hour interview with the San Diego Padres, yet the Padres have hired Craig Stamen as their new head coach. What did Pujols and the Padres talk about 9.5 hours? My God, the guy doesn't get the job, Coach. What do you think you could be talking about other than the team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I loved him as a player, and I loved how simple his hitting mechanics were. And I believe most hitters should try to emulate his mechanics, and they'd have a lot more success than launch angle and all the other BS that's going on now.
Eric?
I mean, that was a surprise to me because I thought for sure after that interview he had a real good shot at getting that job. I mean, the players given the problems within the clubhouse, I can guarantee you he would have had the buy-in from day one because everybody in that clubhouse saw him play. I mean, especially Machado and Tatis Jr., they for sure saw him play. But I don't know what the concern was. Maybe it was, something he said or how he was going to run things. I know that, AJ Preller is a hard guy to work for. And, I think just what it came down to was just he wasn't the right fit. And I think they just found that out within, 9.5 hours.
Candy?
It surprises me because as I'm in the business and I do interview people, I can't imagine, it doesn't take me an hour to know if I'm going to hire somebody or not. It's quicker than that. So to have an interview 9.5 hours, just and to think that 9.5 hours and you still don't get the job surprises me. But you wonder what all they discussed, and then you wonder what did they take from that, and are they going to use if he'd go coach someplace else? So that's just what comes to my mind.
Warren? I don't know. I could talk 9.5 hours, but my God, not get a job after 9.5 hours.
Yeah, that
Surreal.
is. Yeah, it's mind-boggling, to think that, they hire Craig Stamen with no managerial experience and Albert Pujols, who had a great career, not that really matters as far as managing is concerned. But in 1980, we won the World Series when Dallas Green took over, who was an ex-pitcher. And you find your best managers are pitchers and catchers because they're the ones that, basically run the game. The other position players are, they're out there, but the catcher sees the game from a whole different perspective than the other players, But this, I was really shocked at Stamen and only being 41 years old, but that's where the game's going is younger. It's getting younger all the time.
Green V33. I'm too young for these people. Well, I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but you're going to learn something regardless. Okay, Barry?
I think it probably came down to how you're going to control Pujols. You look at who they hire nowadays; it's whoever they can control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trent?
What are they going to tell Pujols? Pujols is going to do what Pujols wants. But look at the fact that Pujols, their real superstars there are Latino players. He would seem like the perfect guy with them. But I think it's all but down to control. You look at who even the Roberts, who I've never been a big Roberts guy, but I thought he managed the game 7 unbelievably. But he's controlled by the front office. So I mean, if they can't control you, they're not going to hire you. That's what it boils down to, in my opinion.
No, I think you're right. That's true. They're probably looking for somebody that they obviously. Well, number one, as I understand it, he used to play for the Padres anyway, so. That he probably had a foot in the door there, and like you guys have said, pitchers and catchers tend to be the best managers, so you had two things working in your favor. But Barry, I'm with you all the way on that. I really am. Pujols is not one of those. He probably wants to run his own show, and the fact that he doesn't have any managerial experience doesn't help his cause any. Great points all the way around, Barry. Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll turn it over to Trent.
Yeah, I'm really triggered by this, and it upsets me because in the 90s I did this twice, right? I went in and interviewed. I actually interviewed with the Padres for over 3 hours. And by the way, you're giving them all this data, trying to sell yourself. 3 hours is a lot of time and data to find one point that triggers that they don't like about you. They'll fixate it on you, and then they'll get you. You know what? All the information was good, but that one thing, I don't know if we can live with that. So that. I learned that in one lesson. And then in the second one, which I will not mention this team, they called me back for a 2-hour interview, called me back for another 3 hours. I sat down with the manager of the club and the general manager, and they grilled me for 3+ hours all sorts of data of how I've done it. How as a young guy, how have you done and created these athletes injury-free and world championship teams and blah, blah, blah. And then you know what they did? They took my data and hired from within another coach and grabbed all that data. I think that's total trash. I think this is exactly what they did with Pujols and exactly what Barry said. They grabbed him for a bunch of data and download and feedback of information, and then they hired somebody who they could tell what they need and when they need to do it. Because Albert Pujols, to Barry's point, he's made his money, man. He's going to be a guy, and he is a guy of ethics and principle, and he is not going to compromise for anyone. And I think, and by the way, in 9.5 hours, that might be the one thing they learned and said, well, I loved all the information, but this one thing we can't have. And now he is exposed to all this data in 9.5 hours, and they're only going to have to pull one thing that they don't like, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I think it's inevitable he'll get a job. I just don't know where.
Mhm.
All right, one other thing. What do you think, Warren? Do you think he'll eventually get a managerial job?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I think
Right.
so.
With his background, yeah, and the way he's related to the press and the way he's related to everybody in baseball, he's a great ambassador for the game.
No question. All right, one of the most intriguing no-hitters from a person that I've seen in history, and I think we can all appreciate this, occurred on September 4th, 1993, when Jim Abbott tossed the 8th no-hitter in Yankees franchise history. The former Michigan Wolverine product, as everybody knows, only pitched with one arm. What are your thoughts about a one-arm no-hitter, Coach Cardieri?
One of the most spectacular things I think I've ever seen. I remember when it happened, and Robin Roberts' son, Danny Roberts, was the coach at West Point. And Danny said, that's because his mechanics are so good. And I thought of that, and I'm like, amazing to be able to throw a pitch, put the glove on, and still field a comebacker. It's an amazing feat. Amazing.
I know you have a heart out, Coach. You want to let everybody know how to get a hold of you?
Sure. My name, Eddie Cardieri, number 33, just Eddie Cardieri 33 at Gmail is my email. And if I get an email, I'll send you my phone number, guys. I don't want to take up much time of the show. I did want to ask Barry, Scott, if I could.
Sure.
And Trent, good to be on with you again. Very impressive background that you have and getting to know you from our last show. But Barry, with the Expos, were you ever with Andy McGaffigan, maybe with the Yankees even, Andy McGaffigan, Larry Parrish, those teams?
Well, Larry Parrish and I were very good friends. So, yeah, with the Expos. And McGaffigan, I remember him. I can't remember which team it was. Sometimes I lose that. I do want to say this about a couple of things you said tonight. The running through the plate. I haven't heard anybody say that except you. And I was talking to my son about this. I said, if the third base coach, because of the rules they have today, said, look, if there's a play at the plate, which is going to be the ball's in play, run through the plate. Don't slide in the plate because you can't really take out the catcher anymore. I can't believe nobody. You're the first person I've heard say. And did you teach that when you were coaching? Because I've never heard it taught to anybody before. And that in the way the game's played today, that is truly something the coach should be telling them. Run through the plate. Don't slide.
Yeah, and it can occur at second base too, I guess, on a force out. But the other thing is he just didn't have a very big lead. I mean, the rule of thumb, get off as far as the third baseman is off, And no, he had a very short lead and not very good instincts to react when the ball was hit. That's what I thought.
Well, and the lead is secondary lead there. You can make up for that initial lead if you have a good secondary. But the running through the base thing, I think that would have made all the difference in the world. But obviously, they were just not destined to win that World Series because everything that the Dodgers got every break there was to get. So it's just one of those things, I suppose.
Yep, and as they say, a game of inches, and that's proof right there, right?
Well, I think those were the longer spikes for the catcher too. He must have had those on to keep dragging on the plate there. Because just imagine what would have happened if they'd overruled that play and the World Series ends with somebody overruling the plate at the plate. That would have been disastrous for baseball.
Yep.
Great stuff. I love the dialogue between you guys. So hopefully we'll see more of that down the road. So, but anyways, Coach, hopefully I'll see you in a few weeks when I return to Tampa. And Barry, and I can see you every week, and eventually we're going to get together in North Carolina. That's for sure. So
There you go.
Meanwhile, Coach, thanks for being on tonight. I know you have a heart out, so glad you're able to join this group tonight. And as we continue on, and we'll definitely be in touch. And you let me know when you want to come on. Our only baseball options, just so you know, Coach, are Mondays and Saturdays. That's all we do. We have other things that we do, so keep in mind that's either Monday or Saturday. Let me know whatever you want, and we'll make it work. Okay, Coach?
Thanks, guys. Scott, Candy, thank you all very much. Look forward to working with you in the future.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Coach.
Coach.
Good night.
Right, Coach.
All right, so with that said, let's go around and talk about the Jim Abbott no-hitter. Barry, what are your thoughts about the Jim Abbott no-hitter? That was just unbelievable.
Well, I got to see him when I was coaching with the White Sox, and I got to see him pitch. And the amazing thing was just to transfer that glove from his pitching hand. I guess he had it under his arm. I got to remember exactly how he did it, but it was unbelievable. Just that alone. He had good stuff, not great stuff, but good stuff, and just be able to do what he did was just absolutely amazing.
Grant?
Yeah, I'm a Michigan kid, right? So love Jimmy Abbott. And of course, I coach with the Angels, so Jimmy's around all the time. Not only is this guy a very good pitcher, probably not Hall of Fame caliber, but he was a high quality major league pitcher, and obviously overcome some serious adversity. The E60 on ESPN talking about the story. It's called Southpaw. I watched that. Inspirational. I want my kids to watch that because I think as good as a player of Jimmy Abbott, I would rather my boys grow up to be the man that Jimmy Abbott is because he's an incredible human. He's a great guy. Couldn't happen to a better guy to go out and get a no-no for the Yankees. And he's an incredible player and pitcher, but he's an incredible athlete. He's not a small dude. He's a big dude. And, high school basketball player, quarterback on the football team. This guy's an athlete out of Flint, and he's no joke. And, of course, U of M wouldn't be taking a flyer on the guy if he couldn't play. Had a pretty great MLB career. Not Hall of Fame caliber likely, but very solid. So it's good to see the big win for the good guys.
Yeah, and one of the features, Barry and Warren, that we're going to talk about a lot will be no-hitters in the past. I really like going over no-hitters because they're memorable moments in MLB. And I thought that this would be an interesting one reflecting back on Jim Abbott because of the unique way that he did it, the fact that he only had one hand and still, as everybody talked about, the transfer of the glove. So between that, we'll have non-sports topics to lighten things up, break up the monotony a little bit. And I like to keep those light and real. So, all right, Warren, what are your thoughts about Jim Abbott?
Well, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's an inspiration to all people of all walks of life. For what I've never had the fortune to have met him, but I've just to see the type of person he is and what people say about him is just, phenomenal. He's a great human being, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. It's again, inspiration for everybody to see somebody, to be able to have the ability to throw a pitch and be able to transfer and get the glove on his hand because that coming back at the pitcher, it's screaming at 100 miles an hour. Boy, if it's coming back at you, you're getting out of the way of it, and he had the presence of mind to be able to put his glove on and do everything and be able to field the ball. Was a good fielder.
Candy?
So to Trent's point, he is just inspirational. So what he said is his disability inspired him to work harder than most. As a kid, I really wanted to fit in, Abbott says on his website about growing up with a disability. Sports became a way for me to gain acceptance. I think this fueled my desire to succeed. I truly believe that difficult times and disappointments can push us to find abilities and strengths we wouldn't know existed without the experience of struggle. And it talks about how, he would rest his glove on the end of his right forearm After releasing the ball, he would quickly slip his hand into the glove, usually in time to field any balls that a two-handed pitcher would be able to field. Then he would secure the glove between his right forearm and torso, slip his hand out of it, remove the ball, and then usually in time to throw out the runner. And he said a lot of teams tried to exploit his fielding disadvantage by repeatedly bunting to him back in the day. So for him to throw a no-hitter is just I watched it. It was phenomenal. I mean, he did play with the Brewers for a month, the last year of his, and at that point, if all of you remember, he played in the National League. So he actually had to bat, which was unusual because he played most of his career in the American League. But he actually got 2 hits out of his 21 at bats. So kudos to him. He was an inspiration, honestly.
That's a great stat, Candy. I like 2 hits out of 31 at bats with 1 hand. That's unbelievable. Oh, you, Barry, that's what you have to look forward to, Barry. I'm going to come up with all kinds of off-the-wall things, my man, all over the map, and I guarantee somebody like you and I and Warren and Trent, a lot of those older guys can appreciate some of the stuff I'm going to throw at you every Monday night. So, Barry, I'm so glad that you and I and Warren are teammates as well as everybody, but the fact that you and Warren are teammates again is pretty cool stuff. All right, Eric.
Well, the amazing thing about it was, the team that he faced, which was the Cleveland Indians, they weren't quite what they became at that point. They were kind of on the up and up at that point, but still, you have Manny Ramirez in there, Carlos Baegra, Kenny Lofton. I mean, that's no joke of a lineup. I mean, they were all starting to come into their own at that point. But the fact he did it with one arm is truly amazing. And you could probably point out to that moment. It was about 1993. The Yankees weren't really what they are obviously now. I mean, nowadays, you see the records. You'd think the sky was falling today. But that you could probably point that out to that moment being a turning point for the franchise as a whole that had been kind of stuck in a black hole for a long period of time. Because next thing you know, 1994, they're starting to turn it around, and they had a lot of success, and probably would have been competitive in the postseason had it not been for the strike in '94. But next thing you know, after '94, when Jim Adam's no longer a Yankee, they're back in the postseason, and then after that, we all know the rest.
Two things to that, man. One, I got to say, first of all, this pre-Jeter era, right, Katsy?
Yeah.
He was just drafted in 1993 and became a September call-up in 1995 and was on that playoff roster at that point. Yeah. The other thing I'll tell you about Southpaw, Jim Abbott's really calling card is his charitable work with people with disabilities. Like, he takes all his time away from that field. He meets with kids. The parents just write letters about the love for what Jim Abbott has shown kids worldwide. I get choked up talking about it. Like, that guy has told these kids, hey, listen, I did it, and you can do anything you want. You want to play the piano, you can do that with one hand. You can do these things. And he's if you can watch that and not cry, like, you're a better man than I am. It's awesome. It's incredible.
Well, I mean, you think about the pre-Derek Jeter. Heck, Don Mattingly would have had a championship ring if we're going to go that far. And, I mean, really, pre-Derek Jeter, Don would have had his championship instead of waiting forever just to get there with the Blue Jays to begin with. And again, I remember taking note of him with the LA Angels, obviously, and what he became. Once you go to New York and the Yankees, as Barry ought to know, you played there. Once you go to the Yankees, people know who you are because of the market that you're in. It takes you to a different level when you played there at least a year or two. Otherwise, nobody really knows about you in a lot of places out. And back then, it was more the Yankees. Wouldn't you agree with that, Barry?
Well, yeah, it was the Yankees. I mean, in most cases, you could have a mediocre career anywhere else, but in New York, it looked like a Hall of Fame career. So.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, let's face it. Once you hit the Yankees, you wear the pinstripe, people know who your name is. So, all right, we're going to go to our first non-sports topic of the night. Then we'll go to a station break, and then we'll go to our feature topic of the night. And you guys are going to love this one. I really thought deep and hard, since there are a few of us that are over 60 on this group here. And that's this, okay? There are now over 95,000 people in Japan who are more than 100 years old, people. 100 years old, 95,000 people. Mind you, okay, The actual number is 95,118. That's the highest on record, according to the Ministry of Health, with women making up 88% of the total amount. Now, back in 1963, only 153 people in the whole country were over 100 years old. My God, can you believe that, Barry? All those people that are over 100 years old, all 95,000 of them, albeit women. I mean, what? I don't know what they do out there, but that's a lot.
Well, having a nearly 98-year-old father who's still around, I can see that it does happen. So, they have a different diet. Our diet in this country is, is the biggest problem we have. We feed our people poison and we wonder why they stay sick. So, I live on a farm now, and I have 2 grandkids. So I'm trying to have a sustainable farm life here and grow our own foods and vegetables and things of that nature, because I think our food supply is brutal, just the worst.
Interesting point. Yeah, you told me you lived on a farm. How do you like farm life?
Well, I'm more of a gentleman farmer, but I do have people around here that are real farmers that help out. So, but we're trying to do sustainable farming, have our own chickens and hogs and cows and stuff. And the problem is that these kids, they start loving the animals and they don't realize that they're going to be on their plate one day.
It's pretty good. I don't think I can top that. I'm not going to try, Barry. That was awesome. I got to come up with more of these interesting topics, as you just really hit that one out of the park, pun intended. Great stuff, Barry. All right, Trent.
Yeah, I'm right with Barry. I mean, this is a cultural thing. I think Japan has poured into their people being healthy. They have a culture that they want health, and they promote it. They have reduced and mitigated bad diets, approving bad foods, and distribution of bad things for their people. It's nice and refreshing to see a government that's actually looking out for their people. So I'm impressed with Japan. And then, of course, the results are in. And that's a pretty staggering statistic from 1963 to 9. A heck of a 50, 60-year run here on Japan on sustainability and health and wellness. And it's good to see. And nothing that we couldn't do here in America. It's just whether we'll make those commitments.
95,118, 88% women. And back then, you only had 153 people. It almost seems like a lot in this day and age. I don't know. Warren, try to make some sense of this one, because I'm struggling to do it.
Well, the life expectancy for everybody has gotten larger or longer as the technology's gotten better. But just like what Barry said, you are what you eat, and if you eat garbage, you don't expect to live long. And
Right.
Look at smoking. People have quit smoking. Now tobacco's out. So it's just everybody. It takes a little time to change people's minds. But yeah, I definitely watch what I eat. Without question, we eat organic as much as we can.
Yeah, you look fantastic. The last time I saw you where you're at, Warren, you look fantastic. You're as sharp as a tack. Katie?
The oldest person in Japan is 114 years old. And yes, she is from Koriyama, a suburb of the city of Nara. Part of the reason why the higher life expectancy is mainly attributed to fewer deaths from heart disease and common forms of cancer, in particular breast and prostate. They have low obesity rates, a major contributing factor to both diseases, thanks to diets low in red meat and high in fish and vegetables. They said as increased quantities of sugar and salt crept into the diets in the rest of the world, Japan went in the other direction. So with public health messaging successfully convincing people to reduce their salt consumption. But it's not just diet. Japanese People tend to stay active into later life, walking and using public transportation more than elderly people in the U.S. and Europe. And I would say for sure, like if you think about it, how many people here in the U.S. walk anymore? Or you live further and further away. You live in these suburbs, and so you have to drive more places. Whereas if you lived in more cities and condensed areas, you would walk to the grocery store. You would walk here and you'd walk there. And as the U.S. has grown, I've seen less and less of that.
Thanks, Marvin. Glad to see you in chat room as well. Marvin Powell, everybody, in case you don't know who he is a big contributor on Inside the Pigskin and also on the Sports Exchange. He's one guy that's coming through our system, Barry. I'll tell you one thing. He's learning the broadcast podcasting business, and this guy's a quick study. He used to go ahead and play for the Green Bay Packers, I think, right, Candy, as well as a lot of other places. But he's a big USC Trojan for a lot of you people out there. But Marvin's one of my favorite people on the network. All right, Eric, make it quick. We'll go to a station break. We'll talk about our featured topic before Trent gets off.
Well, it's, I mean, unfortunately, America is not the healthiest country in the world, and everyone else around us seems to have found some way to get it right. And Japan's definitely one of those countries, judging by their life expectancy.
Great stuff. All right, Candy, station break.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has evolved. Old school media meets new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check us out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or you sponsor a show, you can always call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. But most importantly, if you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. What are you waiting for? Click it, like it, share us, and turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
All right, Candy, thank you very much. Our featured topic of the night is forecasting MLB's top biggest bombshells. And we'll start with, could you see any of these happen? I'm going to run through a list of players. According to Bleacher Report's Joel Reuter is the source. In Japan, you got Munetaka Murakami's contract exceeds $200 million. Can you see that happening, Eric? Yes or no?
Yes, because generally when you're getting a guy from overseas, he's going to command a lot of money. I mean, unless you're Roki Sasaki, who was still young and he was still young and was still technically under control by his team in Japan. Then you could kind of mess with it a little bit. But for the most part, though, you're getting these guys from overseas and expecting them to do what they did in Japan to over here in America. Now, nowadays, you're not really taking the chances like you used to. It's no longer really a dice roll. Now we have analytics, which will tell you whether this guy is going to do it, whether this guy's going to do what he did in Japan here or not. So it makes it a lot easier. So you don't have any swing and misses anymore, like you used to a lot of the time, like the Fukudomes and the Kazumatsuis of the world. So I could see Murakami commanding $200 million. I mean, he's a power hitter, and I think at one point he hit 50 plus bombs, and teams like that. It's all about the home run ball these days, and this league will go above and beyond to find the most power that they can to make that happen. Although teams gotta be aware, though, this guy to me is just the Joey Gallo of overseas. He's either going to be a home run or a bust.
Candy.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. Yes, I could see that. I could see that happening.
What about you, Warren?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the way they're spending money now, there's a lot of teams. If he can hit home runs, they'll take him. I know San Francisco Giants, they're looking for hitters. They can't get hitters to sign to go to play in that ballpark. So I mean, he's just a matter of, I guess a lot of teams have to have that money slotted for the overseas players. But I'm sure he's going to command a lot of money. 200 million is not within reach for him.
How about you, Barry? What do you think, Barry? Barry?
Yeah, they pay for power. So, he's got a chance at it. I don't know enough about him other than I know he's a power guy, and I think he broke the home run record, seasonal record over in Japan. So, yeah, I can see it. And a lot of people, we talk about baseball and how much they're paying, but, the three major sports, they're the lowest percentage of revenue of all the sports. So there's still room for salaries to go up. And if they sign a guy like him for 10 years for $200 million, that's $20 million a year. That's not a big number anymore.
Okay. Oh, fair. Trent?
Yeah, for me, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see a Japanese player, especially in Boston. I think this is more of a business transaction. We all know they pay for power. Everybody said it here. That matters. I think the business side of this is that they love the Japanese players on the West Coast because they can still get the TV audience out of Japan. They've got audience dollars. Japanese folks are going to watch their heroes come over and compete with the best. It's going to be interesting if they'll stay up and do the Boston deal because it's an issue. You're going to have to get up really early in the morning to watch the Boston Red Sox on TV. If you're in Japan, you're going to start watching your superstar at 5:30 a.m. and see him play ball in Boston. That'll be an interesting thing to see the level of commitment in Japan. But they've proven with the TV contract in LA Dodgers and what they've done with those two Japanese players that there is money in it. And I think that will subsidize the $200 million. So it's a business decision. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to get it.
All right, next one. Red Sox Pirates swap. Wilyer Abreu and Mitch Keller. Eric, briefly or as much as you can, do you see this one happening?
Yes, because they got Roman Anthony, who just finished third in Rookie of the Year voting, and Wilyer Abreu, he's got offense at times, but it's very sporadic. Like he's very, very streaky. So, but Boston needs pitching, and Mitch Keller could eat some innings.
Andy?
You're going to make it short and sweet. Yeah, I could see it happening. You just never know. These teams, when you think that they wouldn't swap, they need whatever they need, they're going to go out and get, especially some of those, some of these teams. So, yes, I could totally see that happening.
Okay, what about you, Warren?
Yeah, definitely. Without question, Boston's, taking a back seat right now to the Yankees, and they don't like to do that, and Toronto also. So they've got to make some moves, and pitching's one of the things that they need to shore up.
Trent?
Fiscal decision, right? Like this is a money decision, and it feels like today all decisions come down to money in Pittsburgh. So, if they can't seem to keep him and they can get something for it, they do. And that's the nature of the beast today.
Okay. I'll wait for Barry to come back, and meanwhile, we'll just keep moving forward. Okay. And he's trying to return, so we'll just keep moving on and go from there. Okay. So let's see this. The Pirates swap, the Phillies swing a blockbuster deal for anybody I haven't called on? We're all so far. Okay. Good. Just making sure. Barry's trying to get back on. Okay. So let's go back. The Phillies swing a blockbuster deal for Adley Rutschman. We'll start off with you, Eric.
Yes, because they're not going to bring back JT Realmuto. He's a free agent now, and he's showed that his best days are starting to be behind him. And Adley Rutschman is going to be on the trade block. I'm not sure if it's going to depend on how much Baltimore is asking for, but I think right now he's kind of on the buy. He's on the buy low right now because his value diminished significantly because he had a bad year where he wasn't hitting the ball and he was hurt for a majority of the year. And they signed the Samuel Basallo kid to an 8-year extension. So evidently they believe in him more than they believe in Rutschman at the moment. So yes, Philadelphia, believe it or not, quietly has the prospects to make that happen. Dave Dombrowski has yet to really make the splash that he's known for making everywhere else. He's kind of been a very, very patient each trade deadline, and also even during the offseason when we think he's going to make a splash and he doesn't. But since he's going to need a catcher and he's got a good one that I think can bounce back, who's got a track record for success, I have no doubt that he's going to at least try and swing a deal for Adley Rutschman.
Okay, we got Barry back. Thanks, Barry. Okay, let's
Yes,
go back.
sir.
That's okay, no problem. So let's see. We'll ask you. Will your Abreu and Mitch Keller? Do you see that happening?
Any of these things are possible. I mean, there's a lot of teams with a lot of money, and anything is possible.
Okay, and then we'll ask you about the Phillies swinging a deal, obviously for Adley Rutschman as well. Your thoughts about that?
Well, they may want to re-sign their catcher ahead of him, but I think Rutschman's going to be a great player eventually. I think he probably is going through some mental issues at the moment from the standpoint of the year he had, but he's got the capabilities of putting together 5 or 10 good years in a row. So I'd be more surprised if he doesn't have if he has another bad year than I would if he has a great year.
Okay. So has everybody talked about all these topics so far? I'm just trying to get an idea where we're at so far. Okay. So let's continue on. The Yankees outbid the Dodgers for Kyle Tucker. Let me have a footnote on that before we go further. That the Cubs actually, it looks like, I'll go over that right now. I have it right in front of me. The Cubs are expected to part ways with Kyle Tucker as he pursues a $300+ million deal. All right, well, let's start off with that one, Eric. Can you see the logistics why the Cubs would go ahead and part ways at $300 million for him?
I think the Cubs can more than afford it, given that they're a big market team, and if they really wanted to, they could dominate the NL Central, but they don't. This is what the Cubs have been doing for a while post World Series. Is they've been behaving like a small to middle market team, and it's been driving particularly people in Chicago crazy. While Milwaukee seemingly has walked on them the past 3 years and taken the division from them in 3 straight years. I think that the Cubs can easily do that deal. And yes, they have some young prospects, but you got a guy too who's still in the prime of his career. Yeah, he had a bit of a down year, but the track record's there where he's had an uber amount of success. I think the Cubs are doing this, but I think they're doing it for the wrong reasons, and there's a reason why the Brewers are the dominant team in the National League Central right now, and it's reasons like that.
Candy?
The Brewers develop young talent. The Cubs can go out and afford to buy that talent. And so the question is where do they want to put their money? Because they have way more money than the Brewers do to spend. So do they want to, the question is how many players do they want to pay for and which ones do they want to spend the money on? So will they do Kyle Tucker? Obviously they're not going to. And they're going to try and, he's going to try and go out and get some other places. Is that smart for the Cubs? As a Brewers fan, I hope the Cubs don't do well ever again, but that's probably not good for baseball. So what can I say?
Yeah, well, you already said it.
Why, Candy? Baseball was fine for 108 years.
Exactly.
Well, Barry, Candy gave you a mouthful there. So what are your thoughts about Kyle Tucker and not being with the Cubbies?
Well, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that he's a $300 to $500 million player. But you got the Yankees that are going to be the hunt for him, it looks like, if they don't go after Bellinger. And you got the Dodgers. Well, if you get those two, especially the Dodgers, I don't see how, if they really want him, it's going to be hard for the Cubs to keep him. I don't think the Cubs are in the hunt for him. I think it's going to be one of the other big market teams, and it's going to either be, and the Mets can come out of nowhere too. You got a guy there who's worth $30-40 billion, whatever the owner's worth nowadays, and they can spend whatever they want to spend if they think it'll help them. And they're possibly going to lose Alonso if they don't re-sign him, so they're going to have a lot of money to spend. So I'd say that Tucker's in a good position, although he's coming off sort of an injury-filled year and his numbers were down. But he was almost a 5-WAR player this year, even in a bad year. So he's a good player, good defensive player, and he'll get big money. But if it's going to be $300 million and up, it won't be with the Cubs.
Warren.
Right. I agree with Barry. He's right in the prime of his career, but I don't think the Cubs are going to get into a bidding war with the Dodgers or Yankees or the Mets. They just shouldn't let him go, develop their own players, or go out and get somebody else. Especially because he helped them offensively, because that was what they were really lacking in 2024. They didn't have any offense at all. So he did make them better. He made the people around him better too. PCA, Peter Crow Armstrong is coming into his own. He's going to be a superstar, so they can afford to let him go and let the other guys around him that were there already develop. And they can plug somebody in there and instead of getting in a bidding war, take that money and use it wisely with other players or get some more pitching.
Great point. So we'll talk about Peter Crow Armstrong next week on 108 Pitches. All right, Trent, we'll ask you this, and then we'll go through the rest of the topics to get you out of here as close on time as possible. What are your thoughts about Tucker and the Cubbies?
Yeah, I think Warren just made a great point about they brought in a guy. He had a lot of influence on the clubhouse. They do not need to get in a bidding war. I would like to see the organizations and how much money they make, and I think the Cubbies are printing money right now. And the fact of the matter, I like that they went to the playoffs. I like that they're not taking the Wrigley family approach, which is invest nothing. We've got TV contracts. We're the only game with WGN back in the day, right? And they got all the season tickets they need. Everyone was going to day games in Chicago at Wrigley Field just to go have a party. They had no problem selling tickets, did not need to win. In this day and age, you do have to win. They proved they can win it. They proved they can win it. They proved they can win with the team they had last year, which was not a lot of all-stars. So I think that comes back to Warren's point of the big influence of Tucker. Why would they want to get at a bidding war? And right now, I appreciate the Milwaukee challenge, because they are getting whipped up a little bit by the Brew Crew. They're just about 40 miles away, right? But the reality is that I bet at the end of the day, the Cubbies are making 100, 200 million, and the Brewers maybe making $1 million or $2 million.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to pivot back to. I'm sorry.
Kathy's got a rebuttal for me.
Oh, I do. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, everybody. All right, for better or worse, Chicago is a Cubs town. That's just the way it is. No matter how good the White Sox are doing, or how bad the Cubs are, people are going to Wrigley Field no matter what. That's the way it's been. And I promise you, regardless of how good the Cubs are, that ballpark is going to be packed. However, what the Cubs did with Kyle Tucker is they essentially sold their souls to go back to the postseason, because it's been nothing but mediocre since they won the World Series. And that little core that they were hyping up, and it ended up falling flat on their face. And thankfully, the Cubs traded them all just in time before the dumpster fire ensued. Now, as far as that run goes, the Cubs can easily get Tucker back. They print money. That team is in like the second largest market in the United States, behind only New York City. Actually, I think they're behind LA too, but I digress. Top 3 market. They can afford him. The problem is they don't want to. They behave like a mid to small market team, and that's why the Brewers took him upside on their knee and took the division from him the past 3 years.
So Barry, Warren, is this guy brash or what? What do you think? You think Eric's brash?
That's why you have him on, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
That's what all right, so that's exactly why we have him on. That's why he's a hit all over the network. And it's my responsibility to get this guy in a press box. Okay, I have no problem. All right, so Trent, we're going to go over some topics real quick, and then I'll circle around with everybody else, because I know you're on a time constraint here. The Yankees outbid the Dodgers for Kyle Tucker, yes or no?
Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
Okay, the Dodgers pivot to Cody Bellinger.
Be interesting if they bring Bellinger back. I'll be really interested to see that. I think he's a great fit. His dad played there. So, I mean, like, I think there's a bunch of things that work. Had a great, maybe that gets him back to where he was most successful. That triggers a bunch of things for him. I don't think it's a horrible play, and I think it's possible.
Okay.
And he's on sale. And he's on sale on the Dodgers payroll. He's cheap.
Okay, let's continue on. Trent, I know you have to get going. Okay, reunion. The Mariners re-signed Josh Naylor, acquired Yandy Diaz, and Brandon Lowe in a blockbuster deal. Do you see it?
I can see it. Mariners are right there on the edge, man. They are right there, and they're gonna get hungry. They got a little taste, and they're gonna want to push it over the edge because, man, pretty close to getting to that first World Series, man.
Okay, the Giants acquired Joe Ryan to bolster their starting rotation. Do you see it? Out of Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can see it. You know, it's a bigger market. It's an opportunity for him to go to something bigger, play in a probably, very similar environment, by the way, cold. But yeah, I can see it happening. I mean, the Giants can buy him away. I think it can happen. It also gets them a lot stronger, and they need some strength right now.
Okay, well, a few more. Then I'm actually going to go in this order with everybody having a chance to rapid fire all of these. Okay, so let's. The Braves acquire Simeon to obviously build plug the shortstop hole. Do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Like, the Braves, there's a lot of options at shortstop. Like, I don't think they necessarily going to go acquire this guy. They could, right? I don't know, what the Braves are up to. There's been a lot of changes going on. Not what seems like for the better, based on the result. But, I think, to Eric's point, Dombrowski's built a couple of winners. And, I was in Detroit when Dave Dombrowski was struggling for years going, is he really going in some direction? Because we're trying to figure it out. And then he got, Sean Casey on that free agency deal, and he got a couple short up veterans with some of the young guys and really had a couple nice years there. But I'm trying to figure out what the Braves are doing. And, maybe they got a rabbit in the hat. So I'm not sure what they're doing to plug that shortstop hole, but I think they've got a lot of options. So it would be, 50-50 for me on this one.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Okay. And good old Marcus Simeon, 50-50. Okay. Let's continue on. The Detroit Tigers try to plug a hole with Bo Bichette. Do you see that happening?
Hey, man, if the Detroit Tigers can acquire Bichette, man, yes, please. Like, we need some help over here in Detroit, and he's a high-quality player, man. And for the most part, he's been a healthy guy until this last year. So, obviously comes from a pretty good lineage with his dad. So, I'd love to see Bo Bichette in the Tigers uniform. Made me feel great.
And last one, and then you can give your contact information. I'll go a little bit slower so Warren and Barry could comment on it. The Mets let Pete Alonso walk, spent big on starting pitching.
Do I see that happening?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know what the Mets are doing with Pete Alonso, but he had a pretty good year after a very tumultuous offseason, right? And so I think the fan base loves him in New York. I think that's for sure. I don't know if that matters to ownership or not, really. So maybe at the end they don't care. But I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Pete Alonso. I think what they did learn is if they don't get starting pitching, they're never really going to compete for a title.
Great stuff. All right, Trent, let everybody know how to get in. Oh, yeah, put your butts up, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the group.
Yeah, thank you for having me as always, guys. Great to see Warren and Barry on here, and so good to see you guys. Thank you for joining, and always happy to be here. I am Trent Mark. I am at Trent@leadershipity.com, leadershipity.com. I am the author of Leading Winning Teams, book I wrote, published by Wiley, and you can pick it out at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere in your major stores. I speak all over the world. I'm a growth coach, help a lot of organizations grow and 10x their valuation. So I love it, and you can always catch me on this network as well as my own podcast. Winners Find a Way. And I look forward to seeing everybody down the road. Feel free, please reach out to me anytime. My cell phone is 480-710-3712. I give my cell phone out. It's true. You can call. If you're a Jag, I will block you. I will not keep you on my cell phone. But like, you are welcome to give me a call or email me.
Great stuff. Okay, glad to have you on, and we'll be in touch.
Nice meeting you, Trent.
And Trent, our plan is to have you going forward on Monday nights. Okay.
Yeah.
With this group. Okay, just want to make sure you're
Everybody.
Everybody. All right, thanks everybody. All right, we'll go back a little bit slower on these topics. I want to make sure we got a few people in, so they got the core of them. All right, so all right, we'll go back one at a time. That way, it keeps everything more orderly. Okay, we'll go to you, Warren. The Yankees outbid the Dodgers for Kyle Tucker. Do you see it?
Yes, I could see that definitely. You know, the Yankees, they're going to get back to the way they were, to buy the best players that are out there that they think that can get them over the top and get them back into the World Series and winning a World Championship. Money is no object for them. Never has been.
Okay, the Dodgers pivot to Cody Bellinger.
I'd have a hard time with that, because he struggled so much at the end when they let him go before, but like Trent said, he's cheap by the amount of money they're paying their other players, but I think they've got to let the guys that they've already got in their organization develop and let them get a chance at the big leagues. It's not that money's an object, but what do you tell your minor leaguers if you keep going out and they keep playing in the minor leagues, and every time position opens up, they go out and get a player, and you just still sit there and toil in the minor leagues? It's bad for the organization to go out there and get a guy that they've already had and not give the opportunity to players that they have in their own organization now.
That's a great point. It really, 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 really is. So, all right, the Mariners re-signed Josh Naylor, acquire Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lowe, and a blockbuster deal. Do you see that happening?
Yes, definitely. Again, like Trent said, the Mariners are they're one game away from being in the World Series. And it's something that they've never achieved. And they've got a good young core, and now they're maturing, and add a couple pieces of just is enough to just push them over the top to get to the World Series.
Okay, let's continue on. Okay, the Giants acquired Joe Ryan to bolster their starting rotation.
Yes, definitely. The Giants need starting pitching. They're going to let Verlander go, and Logan Webb is basically about the only starting pitcher that they can count on. The other guys are still developing. They're young, and they need another established pitcher to go along with Logan Webb.
Oh, maybe Justin Verlander letting them know due to lack of run support, I would think. But
yeah, right. He didn't put that down. Exactly.
Yeah, he didn't get no run support at all. The Braves acquire Marcus Semien to plug their shortstop hole. Do you see that happening?
No, I don't see that happening. He's been playing second base on turf, now to go to grass and go back to shortstop. He was a great shortstop when he was with the A's, so he's got a proven track record that he can play shortstop. But now it's been 5 years probably since he's played shortstop, and to get somebody that age when there's other players out there that are available, I don't see that happening.
All right, do you see Bo Bichette signing with the Tigers and deciding to shift to second base?
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, he had some leg injuries, I believe,
right,
and do anything to get off the turf and get back on grass to take any pressure off his legs would be good for him. To go to a grass field instead of turf field, would be good for him, and it'll make his career longer.
It's funny how you say that, because Andre Dawson pulled the trick at Wrigley Field, and we all saw how that worked out with the actual. Great point, right. Warren, all the way around. Okay, and last on that one, Pete Alonso, the Mets let him walk. They spent on starting pitching. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't understand, because they've been back and forth for him for a couple of years about letting him go, and is he going to be there? And until they got Sosa, I mean, I thought he was the face of the franchise. And he's had some great years there. I couldn't let a player that's done that well in New York, under the scrutiny of the New York press, that's done that well, let him walk. They've got to do whatever they can do to re-sign him and keep him happy, because he's a big cog in their offense.
Okay, all right, Barry, I'm going to go over them again. I just want to make sure everybody has a fair opportunity to talk about each individually instead of going back and forth to try to keep it more organized. So I appreciate Barry's patience. And then after that, we'll go to a little bit more singular topics. Okay. With that, so let's go back around the horn with Barry. Okay. We talked about Kyle Tucker with the Yanks. What do you think, Barry?
Well, I think it's always possible. It depends on how much the Dodgers want to pay, because the Yankees have not, other than Judge, they haven't shown a propensity to throw out a whole lot of money for position guys. They've thrown it out for some pitchers, but anytime the Yankees want somebody, they're going to be in the hunt. But it's the same thing can be said about the Dodgers, and they both have a need. So Tucker's in a pretty good driver's seat right now.
Yeah, he really is. Okay, what about the Dodgers pivoting to Cody Bellinger? Do you see that? I think you mentioned that, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go after Bellinger. I mean, anything's possible, but I think after you've had a bad run like he did, it's kind of hard to go back there.
Fair enough. Okay, well, and we talked about the Mariners. Like you said, they were pretty close to getting the World Series. Josh Naylor, Yandy Diaz, and
well, I'm not exactly sure who they'll get, but they're going to get some players because they're right on the cusp of getting to the World Series, and I'm sure they've got money to spend.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be low Yandy Diaz or Josh Naylor, that's for sure. Okay, and obviously we talked about Giants acquiring Joe Ryan. Do you think he's obviously a type of guy that could make a difference there?
They need pitching, and you never know about how well a pitcher's going to do till he gets there. That's a good park for pitchers. So, yeah, that's a good chance that happening.
Okay. And we know about Braves acquire Marcus Semien to plug the shortstop hole. Do you see that?
I think Walt Weiss would be at shortstop ahead of Marcus Semien.
I like that. That was pretty good. Walt Weiss was a pretty good shortstop back in the day, too, mind you. What about Bo Bichette with the Tigers?
The Tigers got a pitcher they're going to have to pay $300 to $400 million to keep. I don't know if they're going to be willing to hit the price mark that they need for Bichette, because they got to keep Skubal, and it's going to take a big truckload of money to keep in.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to talk about Skubal in the coming weeks, too. I'm just trying to see a lot of the different people that are, and the Mets always are the topics for everybody, that's for sure. All right, and then what about Pete Alonso? You think the Mets will let him walk for more pitching?
What difference does it make if they want pitching? They got the money to afford pitching. I mean, you got an owner there that he plays outside the box of everybody, even the Yankees and the Dodgers to a certain extent. He can spend all he wants to spend. I think the only way Alonso doesn't come back there if he wants more than 5-year contract. He's a little bit older. If he wants more than 5 years, it may be hard for him to stay there.
All right, Candy, and then Eric, you've talked about a few. I'll let you guys go through real quickly. Do you remember all of them? Or you want me to go back over them with you guys too?
I'll need you to go through them again.
All right, no problem. All right, Eric, we'll go ahead with the ones that you already talked about. Tucker. In fact, you ranted about Tucker, so you don't have to rant on him anymore. Oh, but do the Dodgers, Yankees outbid them? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They need a proven bat, and time's running out to get Judge that World Series ring.
Okay, Dodgers pivot to get Cody Bellinger.
No, and for a number of reasons. Number one, it didn't end well there, and number two, the Dodgers have this prospect named Jaju DePaula. He's a first-round pick, and he's currently number 13 in MLB's top 100 prospect list. And he's ready to go. And Andrew Friedman, although the Dodgers have the reputation for spending money, Andrew Friedman knows when to pull back and let the young guys take over.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Mariners re-signed Josh Naylor, acquire Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lowe.
I mean, they had a taste right there of getting to the World Series for the first time ever, and I have no doubt that there's going to be plenty of people saying they should go all in. And they already have Randy Arozarena. Why not take the rest of the Rays stars?
Hey, that's pretty good. All right, the Giants acquired Joe Ryan.
Yeah, they need. I mean, yeah, Logan Webb, Batman needs a Robin and Joe Ryan.
Yeah.
That's good too. I like that. Okay. And obviously Braves and Marcus Simeon. What do you think?
No, he's 35 years old and he's on the back nine of his career. And
Bichette Tigers.
Nope, they want to bring in the big tuna fish in Tarek Skubal and bringing in Bo Bichette. That will prevent them from doing that because they got to spend a lot of money to keep him and to keep Tarek Skubal in Motown.
There you go. Great points all the way around. Like Gary said, great minds think alike, right? You, Barry, and the kid. Okay. And of course, Pete Alonso. You know the drill.
Yeah, they're going to let him go. Stearns was never really that big on him. He tried to let him go last year, but I think more or less Steve Cohen wanted to keep him because Steve Cohen likes him. But I think this year though, with Scott Boras and Pete Alonso not reading markets, I think they're going to let him go because they got plenty of guys on that team. Like they can easily flip Vientos to first base.
All right, Candy, you got the last crack at it, then we'll move on. It gets easier from here, but obviously during the off season, we have to go over a lot of these projections, and we'll see how they play out. A lot of this stuff probably won't take place until after the baseball winter meeting. So all right, Candy, we'll start off with Tucker.
Will the Yankees outbid the Dodgers? Yes, I think the Yankees have the money. I think they're gonna go for it. They don't like the fact that they didn't get back to the big dance into the World Series. So whatever they can do to get there, they're gonna try.
Very good.
Okay.
So you got the list in front of you. Go ahead.
Dodgers no to Cody Bellinger. Mariners, yes, they're gonna re-sign Josh because again they're so close. They tasted it. They know what it tastes like. They're gonna do what little bit they need to switch it up so that they can get there. And they acquire Yanni and Lowe. Giants acquire Joe Ryan. Well, let's face it, Minnesota hasn't kept any of their players. They were on a dumpster fire sale, so I think Giants can definitely acquire him. Let's see, Braves acquire Simeon. The Braves have been the one team that you just can't quite put your finger on whether they're going to do something smart or not lately. So I'm not so sure about that one. Bo Bichette, no, he will not go to the Tigers because, again, just like everybody has said, they have to find a way to keep Skubal. So whatever they can do to do that. Mets, they're going to let Pete walk because they want pitching and they can pay for anything. Obviously, was well known this year, but they fell short. So they're going to do what they need to because let's face it, the Dodgers showed you in the World Series you need starting pitching. That's what carried them through the series. So that's what more and more teams are going to, I think, strive for.
All right, I'm only going to comment on a few of these. Number one, Bo Bichette would be a great addition to Detroit, but not at the expense of Tarek Skubal. As far as Joe Ryan is concerned, no doubt about it. I mean, I'd love to see him go to the Giants, but they need bats before they can bring him on because they let Justin Verlander get away. Justin Verlander had a really good year. That was a waste there. Kyle Tucker, well, the Yankees don't get outbid on anybody. And if they do, the only time I ever saw a guy leave that got good money was Robinson Cano, and he stunk out the joint after he left to the Yankees to Seattle and the Dodgers and Cody Bellinger, I don't see it. So let's continue on. So let's talk about Bo Bichette. If not the Tigers, where will Bo go next year? Eric, or does he remain to Jay?
I could see him staying in Toronto. I mean, Vladdy's there long term. I think that's what was kind of holding him up a little bit. But they just went to the World Series. But we'll see, though, because Bo has said that he's open to going elsewhere.
Candy?
I think he stays. I think he's seen that the team is playing together and how far they went. I think they have unfinished business yet in Toronto.
What do you think, Bear?
I think he stays. I think he stays with Guerrero. They, kind of came up together, and I think he'll stay there.
What about you, Warren?
Yeah, I think he'll stay there too. He's homegrown, and they have that nucleus of those guys that all came up together. and they're starting to taste winning. You know, now they just need a couple more pitchers, and they can get over the top.
Yeah, that definitely makes the most sense. All right. We talk about Nolan Ryan every week. So on July 31st, 1990, he earned his 300th career win. I'm going to ask Barry and Warren because obviously you guys played. First of all, Warren, what were your thoughts about Nolan Ryan?
Oh, he was fun to watch. Oh my God, I'm glad I only had to hit off him once. You know, he was fun. He was fun to watch. You know, he was special. You know, as I always looked forward when the days he pitched against us, I always looked forward to it.
What about you, Barry?
Well, he's the only guy I ever saw in my 24 years in professional baseball that you know you thought, well, he could throw a no hitter tonight. I mean, every game out that he threw, you know, when he was breaking ball, and he was getting his breaking ball over, he was basically unhittable. So yeah, he was when he was mean, you know, he threw in. You know, he would throw at you. You knew he was throwing at you. It was intentional, and he was a very tough competitor.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, when I started hitting you guys with these topics with these players, you guys are going to feast and famine on these things. I'm just salivating every time I come up with them. You know, so let's talk about Ichiro. All right, go ahead, Candy. Thoughts on Nolan? You've gotten this pretty diet of them lately.
No, it's okay. I mean, we've commented numerous times. I mean, he's an excellent pitcher. I can't imagine ever going against him. I mean, he consistently threw pitches that were clocked above 100 miles an hour. And he maintained his velocity throughout his career, which I think is something that is kind of unheard of. That I think people lose some of that arm strength as the years go on, but he didn't. So,
Eric?
I mean, he is the best, in my mind, the greatest pitcher of all time. I mean, he kept his velocity into his 40s. You know, he was not the guy you wanted to mess with out there. I mean, Robin Ventura found that out real fast.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at a later date, Eric.
But he was incredible. I mean, he's like so beloved in the sport today. Heck, even the second George Bush had a poster of him in the Oval Office.
Well, that says a lot right there. Really does. All right, let's go to Ichiro Suzuki here. He's the first of 7 MLB. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay. Ichiro, that was good, Eric. Ichiro Suzuki is one of 7 MLB players in the 3,000 hit club and 500 stolen base club, along with Hall of Famers Ty Cobb, Eddie Collins, Otis Wagner, Lou Brock, Ricky Henderson, and Paul Molitor. Eric, some thoughts about that club?
I mean, just again, Ichiro was probably the best all-around player of my generation, and he shattered record after record. It's like he walked into Major League Baseball and was just great from it, and it was just great from day one.
Andy?
Again, we've talked about him. He had such good speed. He could hit to all fields. He was just a great studier of the game. Like, he knew the game, and so he knew where to hit the ball, and he wasn't afraid to put it in any field. You know, whereas a lot of batters, I think, try too much, but he just naturally did it. And with his speed, he was one that everybody should emulate their game after.
Perry?
Oh yeah, great player, great defensive player. Hit too many singles for my liking, but that's the nature of his game. But you know, he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's probably a Hall of Famer in the Japanese League and the Major League Baseball. So he's a great player. And I think one of the more impressive things he did was throw out the first pitch not long ago, and he threw it about 85, 86 miles an hour. So still got his arm.
Yeah, that is pretty cool stuff, Barry. Thanks for bringing that up. Warren?
Yeah, he was definitely a great player. I mean, obviously, he was a Hall of Famer. And, he was in the era where speed was still part of the game, where they were stealing bases and moving runners and hitting behind people, hitting and running and playing the game the way it used to be played. He was a great player. And then he was in the era of where players started playing into their 40s, that they kept themselves in shape in the off season. They didn't have to go out and get jobs like they did in the past. And he was able to prolong his career by just taking care of himself. And yeah, because definitely hitting line drives and speed, that was his game.
Great stuff. One more baseball topic, one more non-sports, and we're about 5-10 minutes away from wrapping it up. Great show. Glad to have a lot of different people in here as well. Coach Curry is great. Trent Clark as always, and of course I got my two anchors here hanging in there. Barry and Warren will be the two anchors of the show every week, so I'm glad to have them both on my team, as I have for many years anyway. So with that said, let's talk about if you're in the Hall of Fame, I should be wearing your number. Nick Gonzalez says on the Pirates. Dave Parker, do you agree, Eric?
No, because not every team retires numbers. Some teams feel as though that they should just have like kind of one of them honor boards per se. I mean, the same could be this. I'm just gonna take the football real quick. You could say something about the Dallas Cowboys and the number 88, where it was worn by Drew Pearson, Michael Irving, and other people since then have worn that number. But I think number retirements have kind of gotten a little bit out of control now, particularly I can speak for the Yankees, where there are some people up there who I really don't think should have had their number retired. But, to me, I think just the Ring of Honor is like what you do. It's enough to honor them. I don't think you have to. I mean, obviously there's few exceptions though, but you have to be like just transcend the sport in order to have your number retired. And, I think we're just retiring numbers for all the wrong reasons now.
Andy?
I think, to Eric's point, I think that there are some teams that have retired too many, and at some point you're going to run out of numbers then. And what do? You're going to do, you're 101 and 151 and 2. Like, I agree. You can retire people and put them into your wall of fame or retire them in your own hall of fame, but not necessarily have to retire their numbers. Around some of these stadiums and you just see how many, and then you see some that don't have hardly any. And I think it depends on the criteria you're going to put somebody on a retired number. Let's face it, all of baseball retired number 42. So, rightfully so. Yeah. But then what is the criteria for you as a team to retire other numbers?
Wow, that was justifiable with Jackie Robinson. Barry?
Well, I like the retired numbers and not being able to use them. Having played with the Yankees, they kind of overdo it. It's to the point there that it's hard to get a number. That you've had your whole career. When you go there, it's either when I went there, Yogi Berra was number 8 at the time, and Yogi Berra was 8. So my chances of getting number 8 were slim and none. But I think it can get a little carried away. But I like the tradition of retiring numbers. I think you have to have at least a Hall of Fame career, and you got to have a certain number of years at the ball club. But I like the tradition of retiring numbers.
Great stuff, Barry. Warren?
I agree with Barry. It's a great honor to have your number retired, but it's got to be special. It's got to be, you have to be a Hall of Famer, and you've got to spend 8 to 10, 12, 15 years with the team, if not, because like Candy said, eventually we're going to run out of numbers when it goes 3 digits. That's just the way it's going. And yeah, it's got to be special. I mean, it's got to be a Hall of Fame player that was really special in that organization. I know, like in Philadelphia, they've got about 4 or 5 numbers retired, and that's it. And those guys were definitely special. They were just the big, they'd be the faces of the franchise in their era, and they were there quite a while.
Great stuff. Okay. Well, all I know is, to me, longevity does make a bit of a difference. Some of the smaller markets, I might be able to see it a little bit if they can't retain their players, but for the most part, I think longevity does matter. Okay, with that said, our final topic of the night is a non-sports, and it's a real fun one, and we'll end it on a lighthearted note. Okay, Iceland once elevated a comedian as its mayor in Reykjavik. How do you like that? A comedian as a mayor in Reykjavik. What do you think, Barry? If you ever want to go out there and be a mayor?
I think it's cold. I think it's way too cold for me to think about. I don't go above the Mason-Dixon line any longer in my life.
Well, I don't blame you. I'm in Florida, so I can appreciate it. What are your thoughts about Iceland bringing a comedian, though?
Well, yeah, that's probably good for Iceland. I think that's a good thing for them. We could probably use some comic relief here every once in a while ourselves.
Yeah, that's why I bring these topics on here, Barry, just for that reason. Comic relief, my friend. Then again, you've only figured me out since '84, right, Barry? Right? So, not like
a long time.
It has been. That's how long. You talk about relationships, Eric. Barry and I have one. Warren, what are your thoughts on the comedian in Iceland?
Well, the thing I find interesting, Scott, is you keep talking about Iceland. Last week, our topic was about Iceland also in the Elves. And, Iceland definitely is definitely a different sort of atmosphere, apparently. Yeah, but I think that'd be great to have a comedian as your mayor. Because what's a mayor? He's out meeting the public, and what better way to meet the public by making them laugh?
Hey, Warren, you got it easy. You only had 2 Iceland topics. I've been doing that for a long time, and I'm trying to. And you know why I talk about Iceland now? Katie and I went there earlier this year, and it's one of the greatest places I've ever been to. It's a place that my brother's never been to. So I think Iceland's a cool place. If it wasn't, like Barry said, cold, I'd like to go back there more often. But that's okay. We won't be talking about Iceland next week. I'll find some different stuff, but I had to put this comedian one in. And again, let's admit, part of our what we do is entertain, right? Barry and Warren is entertain.
Yes.
We can agree on that. Well, I like to come up with some off the wall stuff. So, but I promise you, I'll give you the week off from Iceland, and it'll come with some different hay. But at least we found the elf and the comedian. All right, Candy.
Yes.
It was a satirical gesture designed to protest against the political class blamed for mirroring Iceland in the financial crisis. To his horror and the horror of the establishment, he won. Why do I always have to get myself into trouble? He said, recalling his thoughts on the night of his victory. So he did it as a joke, and yet the joke was on him as a comedian, and he won.
All right, Eric, you have the final word on this, and then we'll wrap the show up.
People forget though, comedians are actually really smart people though, because they got to come up with all the material and whatever, and actually hope to God it hits. Otherwise, it's going to be a long night up there. So it's not as bad. It's not as bad as people might think.
There you go. It does it. Lighthearted, non-sports to end it. So with that said, it does conclude this edition of 108 Inches Baseball Talk. I want to thank everybody for joining us at Coach Cardi area at the beginning. Trent and, of course, Warren Brewster. I'm glad to have him back on my airwave. Uncle Warren, it's always great to have you back on. I promise we won't talk about Iceland next week.
Thank you, Scott.
But I'll tell you what, I'm not sure where we're going to go, but it won't be Iceland at least next week. Barry, you know how I feel about you, man. Yeah, the love is something that goes all the way back to the 80s. And I'll tell you one thing about Barry Foote I can tell you right now. Barry Foote not only had a really good career as a player, but what he did off the field as a manager in the minor leagues is something that people should look at. But the thing I could brag about with Barry is what Barry did off the field in business to me is something that Hall of Fame name should be made out of Barry. And that's the thing that impresses me more about you, Barry. You've been a great friend over the years. Every time I've asked you to come on, you've always been kind to me and willing to do it. But what you've done off the field, every major league player and athlete should look at you as a role model, Barry, about what life is like after athletes. And you have definitely proven that. Obviously, you deserve to enjoy retirement or anything because you earned it in ways that most people can only. Well, we talk about in this day and age athletes being broke, and many of them are broke. Barry Foote reinvented himself in the business world as an entrepreneur. And to me, he's a Babe Ruth of entrepreneurs. And I say that, Barry, because I really, truly mean it from the bottom of my heart and the top of my mouth. Okay, so there you go.
I appreciate that. Those are very kind words. I appreciate it.
Well, I've known you a long time. I guess I'm entitled to brag about somebody that is like Coca-Cola. He's a real thing. Is that what it is? Or is it Pepsi? I don't know which one of those things it is, but I think he gets it. So with that said, Eric, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can follow me on my X account at Sports Team News, or you can check out my blog at BellyUpSports.com, where I'm writing about all things baseball and the Milwaukee Brewers. And if you think I don't like your team, I probably don't.
All right, Candy, give us one more station break that we're going to. Well, Barry liked that one. Don't worry. You get used to it every week. See, Barry, how do you like working with Eric every week?
Oh, he's my kind of guy. Tell it like it is.
Well, there you go. Don't worry. I got topics tonight. We had to get a little bit more into the off-season stuff, Barry and Warren, but there'll be a lot of counterpoint type of questions that I'm going to incorporate into next week's edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk that we're going to be able to put everybody on the spot on as well. So tonight, you know how it is. You have to talk about some of this off-season stuff and speculate, and that's what we're going to do. Candy, station break.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved, old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find a plethora of great content. If you want to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. What are you waiting for? Honestly, best YouTube channel out there. Hit it, like us, share us, and then tell all your friends and family, and then turn on your notifications. You're notified every time we go live. Monday nights is baseball night. Tuesday nights is football night. Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange, you never know what Scott's got up his bag of tricks. And I mean, you never know. Thursday nights, fire up. Come to the country club and watch me as I lead my crew. And then Scott's got Sports Wrap, where he talks hockey as well. Wednesday nights, three weeks out of the month on No Limits, we talk to a former U.S. Olympic bobsledder who talks about CTE. So check that out. And not only CTE, but mental health, brain injuries, all of that information. He's trying to raise money so that he can help more people. So please check out No Limits as well. And then just go to our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of videos. If you like football, we just were at the Miami Hurricanes versus Syracuse game. So we have videos up from that and post press conferences. So go check out those as well. There you go, Scott. Back to you.
All right, Warren, why don't you let everybody know how to get a hold of you?
All right. I can be reached at brewster40@gmail.com.
And Barry, last but not least, the Babe Ruth of entrepreneur. Go ahead.
You can reach me at bfootxx@gmail.com.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for being on the show tonight, and I look forward to having this group on next Monday night here, same channel. And we're probably going to move the show. Barry, is it okay if we go to 8 o'clock? Warren, 8 o'clock, will that be better for you guys?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, it
What about
works.
you? Does it work? I just want to make sure. Okay,
works.
then it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern time. So with that said, on behalf of Trent Clark, Eddie Cardieri, Eric Katz, Candy Ebling, Warren Brewster, and Barry Foote, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will see you next week at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Take care, everybody. Have a great night, and hope you have a great week. God bless everybody, and thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate those that participated in the chat room. Bye now.